Buddy's new whip. It's an MR2, guys. It ain't a Lotus Elise.
So I figured I'd give you guys a little bit of a rundown as far as to how it goes to replace the fuel pump. In particular, I'm doing the AEM 340 E85 compatible fuel pump. What I always recommend is disconnect your battery. I have mine relocated in the trunk. So first things first, always focus on safety. Unplug it. What I like to do for the rear end, jack it up under the rear diff, put my two jack stands under there. I always like to leave the jack there just in case. You never know as far as jack stand failure. I've never had one happen, but I don't like to play it by chance. So after disconnecting the battery, jacking up your car, you'll see why it needs to get jacked up once I get to this part. But I just advise you guys, jack it up now. It'll save you guys some time. The next thing you have to do is remove the rear seats. That's pretty easy. There's these two levers here. There's one there and one there. Excuse the water bottles. You take these off, and then the seats will they like pop back up. Then you're able to kind of pull them out. It's a little dirty back here. This wiring here is going to get cleaned up. I kind of took it all apart when I wired in my speakers, but this is going to be the access that you need to replace the fuel pump, which is right behind the passenger side. As you guys can see here, these wires going into it, I have a fuel pump rewire kit, so it allows for my fuel pump to get kind of like the most voltage possible at all times, so it kind of gets like a direct power source from the battery, and it is ran to a relay. But I figured I'd show you guys, the first steps of replacing your fuel pump. And first step, safety, unplug battery. Second step, jack up your rear end, put jack stands. Don't trust the jack, always put some jack stands. Then you're going to be removing your rear seat. Pull these two tabs there, your seat releases, and then you will be taking off 4 Phillips screws. That removes this cover here, and then that will give you access to the wiring and the fuel pump. So I will show you guys how that looks coming up. So again, like I mentioned, you're going to be removing these 4 screws here. So this goes down like that. There's Phillips screws each corner. You're going to be removing this. As I told you guys, I have my fuel pump rewired, so that's an alternate relay that's sending direct power when the key is on to versus when the key's off. Kind of regulates how much voltage gets to the pump safely. There's going to be 2 clips you disconnect, which is that white one there and this black one here. That's part of the body harness. It goes all the way kind of in there. All you got to do, I'll try to show you guys as I'm holding the camera, is you pinch it here on the clip that plugs in and just pull back. Same thing with this. They have a little retaining clip here that you squeeze, push down, pull out, and that's pretty much it. So some of your guys' fuel pump setups might look different depending on the year you have. 95s, 96s, for the most part, have this ring here. What that does is you kind of have to get a flathead and a hammer and kind of slowly turn it counterclockwise, and then that's going to release the spring and then like a gasket that's right under this this ring here. Sorry if that didn't really make sense. Basically it's kind of like a lock ring, and it has a gasket, like a rubber gasket, that goes around that. Once you take this all the way up, you keep going counterclockwise, it's going to release it, and then that'll give you wiggle room to be able to pull it out. But before doing that, if you guys notice, I have a bit of a cut here. This is very thin aluminum. You're gonna have to cut that in order to access this line to be able to pull it out. So once you do that, then you should be able to release your pump. So now we're gonna work our way under the car first and then get to actually removing the pump. I am on the passenger side, as you guys can see here. Got my jack stand there. So what you're gonna need to do is disconnect one of the fuel lines here, which is this one here. So you're gonna have to be very careful with these. Sometimes they are on there pretty hard. As you guys can see, there's a little bit of like kind of rusting happening. It's very normal, especially when dealing with fuel. But you're gonna have to put, you can either use an adjustable, or if you want to get the exact size, I can get you guys the exact size as far as to what the wrench size is there. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then if I'm not mistaken, this is the 14 right here. So you're gonna have to hold this side here as you twist. This right here kind of loosens up and then kind of slides down. You're gonna need to remove this line here before being able to actually remove the pump. So this is the only line that you have to remove from under the car. Once you do this here, then you are able to kind of wiggle this hose out and then pull the pump from the top. So I'll show you guys a little bit closer look as far as to how that goes, so you guys can see. You gotta remove it. It's this one here, and then this is one that you use to hold this. You can either hold this one here and then, you know, try to loosen up this one. Whatever works for you personally. It's going to be about the same thing. It's just you got to be very careful as to how tight you pull on it, because these do strip very easy and you can snap this line. So be very careful when you're doing this. But again, this is the only line you need to remove from under your car when you are doing the fuel pump replacement. So I'm going to do my best to show you guys kind of how to remove this line. You are going to be twisting this one here, and then once this one here breaks loose, you're then able to kind of just back it out. So that's a little bit better. You're able to then just kind of twist this off here. So like I said, this style fitting here just backs out once it's been broken loose. And then you will get some fueling spilling out, some fuel spill out, but it's kind of why I like to always keep a microfiber right there, so as you guys can see, then the fuel is going to start coming out. Once you take this line off all the way, you'll get a little bit more fuel out. But that's the process. Pretty simple to get that line off. Like I said, just be careful when you're using it. It works best if you use some pretty decent quality wrenches. Some of the cheaper ones I've noticed kind of just tend to strip it out because they don't grip it hard enough. Just be very careful when you're doing that, and you shouldn't run into any issues. But yeah, so now this line is basically off here. As you guys can see, this is the style fitting I was talking about that kind of just loosens up and backs out. So now that this is off, we are able to pull the pump from the top, and I'll show you guys that in a minute. Okay, so now that you remove that line from under the car, that's what connects up here to this one. You're going to disconnect. There's a little clamp that you can get with some they're just some Harbor Freight needle noses, but you want to pinch the clamp, push it back, and then what I like to do is I put the pliers right in between the hose, just kind of give it a little nug. Sometimes they're not as easy to come off like that. Sometimes you kind of give it a little force. You can always get the pliers and kind of twist it up a bit, just to free up the binding on the hose. That one came off pretty easy. So then what I like to do is just kind of get it, push it back, and just keep track of where you're putting it, so then you're not scrambling trying to find it. So now that that hose is disconnected down there, you can kind of wiggle this around. So that's what you're going to need to be able to get the leverage to pull it up from here. As I showed you guys at the beginning, I had a split cut right here from the sheet metal, aluminum, whatever it is. That's just to give you access way to be able to get this hose on this side. Once you twist this, you're kind of able to use this little extra clearance you cut out to be able to pull it out from up top. Some people are able to do it without doing that. That's just worked out the easiest and the fastest for me. So myself, along with a lot of other people, like to do a little cut there, fold it back with some pliers, and then you can kind of fold it right back, so it's not sticking up on your seat or anything like that. Then you want to take off this clamp here, do the same process, pull this back, and then after that you're going to be hitting these little lips here with the flathead and a hammer. At least that's what I use, and you're going to be spinning it counterclockwise. So you're going to go the opposite of what you would do to tighten it. So lefty loosey, righty tighty, and then that should release the pump assembly, and then you'll be able to lift it up and out. So like I was saying in the last little clip, you're going to be getting a fly head, putting it there, and then hitting it with the hammer going this way. So as you start hitting it, it's going to start breaking it free. It's going to take a couple turns to go around. Then you're going to get to a point where it's all loosened up like this. This is what's going to free up the pump. So as you guys can see now, you kind of start lifting up on it, and out will come the assembly. Again, tuck away these little side hoses and stuff out of the way, just so they don't bind up on anything. So I'm going to try to do this with one hand. If not, I'm going to stop the video and we'll stop recording and then kind of show you guys how it goes. But I'm going to try it. Oh, maybe I will be able to with just one hand as I record. The little float sometimes gets stuck, but yeah, this is your 2G off a 95, 96 fuel pump assembly. So that little ring there, little rubber seal, is what I was talking about. That's behind this thing here, and that's what kind of insulates everything and keeps it off. So I actually have about a full tank. So preferably when you're going to do a fuel pump, not having too much fuel is a little bit easier, but it doesn't make a difference. You don't have to drop the pump or anything like that. Just be very aware as to what's dropping into your fuel tank. As you guys can see, I did drop my the little seal there. But for you guys, I would highly encourage you guys to be careful when you guys are doing that. Put a rag over it if you can. Just avoid anything falling in there. Saves you guys a headache in the future. So yeah, this is removing the 2G fuel pump assembly. I will show you guys how to remove the actual wall barrel from the assembly in a bit. So here you have your actual pump assembly. You're gonna have this little, it's an 8mm or a Phillips. So as you guys can see, sometimes the Phillips placement gets a little bit stripped out. So it is actually, so it's a Phillips bit here, but you're able to actually get a 8mm on it. So I would recommend, just for peace of mind, unless you have like an impact, like an impact driver for not driver, but basically like an impact Phillips, where if you hammer it, it kind of twists as you're actually applying force to it. That makes it a lot easier. You can either use this method of just putting an 8mm wrench on there, or socket, doesn't really matter, and kind of pulling up on it. That's how I do it. I like to put the 8mm on there, kind of put a little pressure, and then just pull. And said I'm kind of doing this a more complicated way using one hand as I'm recording, but as you guys can see, using the wrench style for me personally is a lot easier. But again, if you're dealing with the factory replacement, so if your fuel pump's never been replaced, chances are it'll be on there a lot more stuck on than mine is. I've replaced mine in the past, and whenever I put this back in, I don't always go super tight, just because of just to make it easier on the next person, or to make it easier on myself when I decide to replace my fuel pump. And so once you start backing out this little 8mm here, this little shiny gold part, it's like a little support brace there. You pull a little screw out, so again, it's a little 8mm. Then this is going to drop, and on a wall barrel 255, this here is what comes with the kit. If I'm not mistaken, I think I reused my stock one, or I modified the 255 one that came with the kit. Yeah, as you guys can see it, I did a little bit of modifying there just to make it sit a little better. Once you do that, it frees up your pump. So there is a rubber O-ring that's kind of locking this in place, and a little garment that's just kind of clipped in there. All you want to do is just kind of lightly pry, as you guys can see there. Just kind of twist. So this is the well, the O-ring that I was talking about. It might still be in there. I can actually feel it right here. And again, this happens. Sometimes a little O-ring wants to get stuck in there. It's no big deal. You can usually get it out with either like a little flathead or something. But if you're kind of checking to see how your factory pump is, if this is all dried up, chances are you need to replace it. I've known of some people that have had fueling issues just off of simple things like this. That and just improperly installing the pump, and you kind of run into all these little weird issues like that. But then there's also this little clip here, and some people replace this harness. I've always used the factory one, especially on this Walbro 255. It's plug and play. I've never had to hardwire in anything actually when it comes to doing the fuel pump install. I've seen some people on videos and even on like DSM tuners, if any of you guys are familiar. DSM tuners is like the holy bible of everything DSM and Mitsubishi related, from what, like 89 to 99. You are able to, if you look on there, some people say you need to replace this to be able to actually run it on a 2G, but for the most part, if you get the right pump, it's plug and play. You literally are just pinch this here and then pull up on it. I'm not able to do it with just one hand, but yeah, you literally just unclip this and let's say this was your stock pump, remove your stock pump, and you just plug right in the Walbro 255, and it's literally direct fitment, direct bolt-on. Goes in, no issues, no wiring, no nothing. And I've been running it like that for going on 5 years now. Never had a single issue. So figured I'd give you guys that little pointer. Always check your plug, especially when you're ordering a pump. Make sure you get it that has a similar style connector. And the other thing is make sure that the inline fitting matches up to where the float is. So you're going to see some pumps that have the inline fitting there, and then where the float or the stream little packet sack here, this basically acts kind of like a filter, so it's a filter sock, where instead of it being aligned with here, it's on the opposite side. You kind of run into a little bit of an issue if you're trying to reuse the factory braces and stuff, where this here hits on that. So I always just like to order it, the one that has the filter sock on the same exact side as the inline fitting here where it gets the fuel. Again, you don't have to do that. I see other people that get this going the opposite way, then they just use a hose clamp on there and then they call it a day. That's fine also. I mean, I'm just letting you know for the sake of simplicity, I like to kind of keep it as factory as possible. If you order it that style, you should be fine. Yeah, and basically reinstallation is the exact same thing. You unplug your factory pump, plug in your Walbro 255, or in my case I'm doing the AEM 340 fuel pump, but that's a little bit different as far as to how the install goes. If you're gonna do 255 or just a stock replacement, this is pretty much as far as you really need to go. Unplug this clip here, that removes this. This little fitting here acts kind of like a I want to say like a spacer in a way, but it's kind of more of an alignment, I feel, to keep it in place from not moving around when it kind of goes side to side. This O-ring is very, very essential. This needs to be here, and if you do not put this O-ring in, I know personally when I did it, not thinking this ring wasn't important, I ran into some issues. It wouldn't really sit in there right. If they send you an O-ring, it's for a reason. Sometimes there is also a factory little clip that goes on top. On the stock fuel pumps, it's like that. It kind of clips in up top. Mine is actually still in there. Oh, there it is. And what it is, sorry, I'm trying to focus again. It goes right up top, and it kind of clips in. It clips onto the factory. I mean the little nipple there. And yeah, that's how you reinstall. Put it back in. Put this little gold brace under there and put on that little 8mm, and you should be good to go. Again, I'm sorry if this isn't as detailed as maybe some would like. If there are things that are missing that you'd like to know, comment down below. Feel free to message me. You can even find me on Instagram. I'm gonna try to put my Instagram on here. I'm always willing to help. If you guys send me messages, I'll be more than willing to answer any questions. Again, I'm not by any means, you know, the guru of all DSMs, but I've been around these, like I said, for a few years, so I've kind of done a lot of the work myself and with some buddies. So anything at all you guys need, my Instagram, I'm gonna try to put it right there. Feel free to message me. If you want any videos in particular, let me know. I'm kind of new to the whole YouTube vlogging / tutorials, so yeah, just, you know, feel free to message me, let me know what you guys want to see, and that should wrap it up for this. I might do an additional clip, if not, maybe on a new video when I actually have the AEM 340 fuel pump installed. Yeah, stay tuned. So just wanted to add one more thing as you're finishing up. I just got done putting in my AEM 340 fuel pump. When you're going to put this ring back on, again, this is for 95, 96, 97, some 97s I think still had this style ring. From what I remember, 97, 98, 99, it's just a bolt-on. So it's just a few little 8mm bolts. You unbolt it and then it just pulls right out. You do still have to do the trimming right here. You kind of just put a little slice in it with like a little saw or hacksaw, or even just bending it up with pliers. But on some of the newer 2Gs, it's just a bolt-on, so you don't have to worry about this. If you do have this style, that rubber ring that's under it, it needs to go flush inside the gas tank opening, not on the outside but on the inside. It needs to go on there nice and flush. So you kind of slowly got to ease it in, then let it sit flush, then you put the ring. Obviously when the ring goes over it and it tightens down, you want to make sure there's no gaps in between your corners, or, you know, I mean, it's not really a corners on a round circle, but around your edges and stuff like that, try to make sure that it's going on there nice and flush. Sometimes when you're going to twist these on, they kind of go on crooked. That'll kind of give you a little bit of a smell issue. So if your car has a strong odor of gas, chances are either you didn't put the O-ring on right, that goes under this, again, inside the fuel tank circle, not on the outside where the threads are. Double check that, and again, come in here and check. I like to put my finger under here and make sure that there's no major gaps. You want everything pretty equal. That's going to allow you to have the nice, tight, kind of like airtight seal. Little pointer is, you know, like I said, put the ring in first, the rubber, sorry, the seal. And then when you go to tighten up the ring, try starting it by hand first. Try to get it nice and flush. Kind of wiggle this around, make sure it's on there flush. By this I mean the fuel pump assembly, because it kind of would teeter-totter a little bit. So make sure it's on there in a nice position to where it's flush, won't move. Then try turning this by hand before you start applying force. That'll kind of help you out as far as to making sure everything's going on there nice and proper. Again, if you don't, chances are you're going to either have some fuel leaking out from here, or your car is going to have a very strong odor of gas. So if your car smells like gas and you can't figure it out, double check to make sure that, for one, that O-ring seal that's in here is on there flush, and also make sure that this lock ring there's no major gaps when you put your finger around, because that'll definitely cause that. So this should wrap up the video. I hope this helps for anyone going in to do a fuel pump install. Again, if there's anything I'm missing that you guys would like me to mention, feel free to comment down below. Again, if you have any messages, I should have posted my link for my Instagram on there. You guys can contact me there. Anything I can do to help, I'm always down to help for the DSM community. Even Hondas, man. I've been working with Hondas as well too lately, so just about anything that goes fast, I've had my hands on it. So yeah, again, hope this video helps. Stay tuned for some more updates on the 2G DSM as we go E85.